Warning! This video is like a course of antibiotics. If you give up in the middle, you will not get the full benefit and you may even end up doing more harm than good. Come back as often as you need to, but try to watch right through to the end. In the first video in this series, I said, let's think of poetry as being like a pop song, only without the music. A poem isn't something very high level and abstract, it's something the poet wrote for our enjoyment. So let's approach it in the same way as we might approach a song, as something to enjoy. In the second video, I talked about the dragon that gets in our way, that stops us from just enjoying the poem by trying to convince us that poetry is too difficult for us. So we're always looking at poetry negatively, thinking about what we don't understand. Instead of that, just forget about the bits you don't understand, at least at the beginning, and try to find something you do understand. Once you find it, hold on to it, just like you would when you fit together the first two pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, and start thinking about where the other pieces might fit in. Today, I want to develop that idea a little bit. The dragon tries to tell you that poetry is too complicated for us to understand. But what I want to teach today is that very often it is we who are too complicated, not the poem. We don't understand, not because the poem is too difficult, but because it's too easy. How can that possibly be? Well, sadly, as we grow up, as we go through school, very often we lose the simple, clear understanding that a small child would have. And instead of using our common sense, we desperately think there's a right answer out there. Something that's perhaps inside the head of a teacher or an examiner or something like that. And we struggle to find that right answer. When, if only we trusted ourselves, we would instantly know the answer. For example, you probably got a lot of this kind of stuff when you were at school. Here's a simple test. Take a look at these shapes. Which one do you think is different from all the others? It's okay. Pause the video, take your time. Which one is different? Here's what a 3-year-old would say. That's right. They'd say it every time. They're all different. Let's try another one. What's this? Yeah, again, pause the video for as long as you want. What's this? I'll bet you didn't pause the video at all, did you? Why would you? It's just a dart. But did you ever think that it was the moon at night? Or a distant planet? Maybe that's not a planet, maybe it's a golf ball. Oh, I know. An owl, winking in the dark. What's this got to do with poetry? Everything. To appreciate poetry, we need to get back to that fresh, clear way of thinking that we had when we were small children. Look at poetry in that way and we'll find that very often the answers to our questions are like the answer to the question about the different shapes. So easy and obvious that the question itself seems ridiculous. Here's an example of what I mean. It's the opening lines of a poem written in 1964 at the time of the Vietnam War. I often read those lines to students and then said, tell me about the poetic voice here. Who is speaking? Who is saying these words? The answer would almost always come back. It's a soldier in Vietnam who's saying this. But is it? Is there anything in those lines that tells us that the speaker is a soldier in Vietnam? There isn't, is there? This is a very good example of the wrong use of imagination. Instead of looking at the words on the page, we form an idea of our own and then we run away with that idea and we lose sight of the poem itself. So I would tell them no. I would say, no, it's not a soldier. You're thinking too hard. Stop thinking about it. Stop trying to figure out. Just give the answer that's obvious. And they'd look puzzled. What does he mean? So I'd say, well, give me the answer that's so obvious that it seems like rude or cheeky to say it. And they look even more puzzled. Well, what is the teacher talking about? Okay, I'd say finally, I had breakfast this morning. These words are spoken by who? And one of the students would say hesitatingly, someone who had breakfast this morning? That's right. That's right. That's absolutely right. So, I was run over by the truth one day. Who says that? Someone who was run over by the truth? Exactly. Do you see what I'm saying? The answer's so obvious we don't even notice it. So the next question would be, what does this person want? Now this time the answer comes back a little bit more easily. This person wants to be told lies about Vietnam. And we don't have to think about it, right? Because it's there on the page. It says so. It says, I was run over by the truth. And it says, tell me lies. So those things we can say with certainty. Trying to guess whether the person speaking is a soldier or somebody or something else. Well, let's not go there. Let's just look at what the poem actually says. And then once we've done that, then we can start using our imagination a bit, okay? We can say, okay, so why does this person want to be told lies about Vietnam? And by now the students are beginning to catch on and see where this is all coming from. This person was run over by the truth. This person says, ever since the accident I've walked this way. So it seems that the truth damaged them. Almost like a car accident or something like that. And so the idea then comes up that, well, this person wants to be told lies because the truth hurts. Okay. And now we're getting somewhere. The person speaking these words wants to be told lies because the truth hurts. Next step. Who is this person speaking to? And again, just look at what is on the page there. The big hint would be, look at the title of the poem. And once again, the answer is childishly simple. The poet is speaking to whom it may concern. So ask yourself, does it concern you? Are you concerned by the idea of people wanting to be told lies because the truth hurts? How do you feel about that? And now we're talking about the poem. We're not talking about some ideas that go off over the hills and far away and don't really connect with what the poem is about and what it's saying. We're talking about the very real issues that this poem is dealing with. It's not about some soldier in a distant country. It's about us. About how we feel every time we watch or listen to the news, every time we hear stories of people suffering in distant places or something of that kind. Do we listen? Do we care? Or do we pretend it isn't happening? Do we switch to another channel or move over onto TikTok or Instagram to get something that's going to make us feel a little bit better? As the poem says a little bit later on, they're only dropping peppermints and daisy chains. Let's pretend that these terrible things aren't really happening. That's what the poem's about. But to get to the point where we can really see the poem, we had to lose a lot of the things that education has taught us and get back to the simplicity of a small child. There can be no doubt that the person speaking was run over by the truth because they say so. And there's no doubt that the person wants to be told lies because, well, again, they say so. And there's no doubt that the person is speaking to whom it may concern because that's the title of the poem. When I talk about shapes and dots or how we read poetry, it all comes down to the basic idea that our education has taken something away from us, and we need to get it back. If you're still with me, if you've lasted this far, you've learned one of the most important lessons I can probably ever teach you. Now, go and watch some of my other videos and make sure you watch them to the end. If you stop halfway through, you'll only get a bit of what I'm saying, and you'll forget that bit within days. Watch the whole thing, and in all likelihood, it will stay with you forever. And remember, what matters about a poem is not what it means. What matters is what it means to you.